Men of Reddit, what is your number MeToo story? Little late to the party, but this just happened last weekend, and I'm still livid. Went to a tailgate then sports event with some friends. All is good. Went to a bar. After said sports event, I'm sitting there with a few friends when I feel a hand creeping up my leg from my left. All of my friends are to the right, so I turn, and it's some random girl I've never met trying to army crawl her hand to my downstairs mix up. It gets so much worse. I move her hand away and she giggles. Her sister runs up and apologizes, saying she thinks you're cute, that's nice, don't just grab for my goods. Her sister and I talk. I move away and my friend starts talking to both of them. Nice guy but tends to talk a lot when wasted. 15 minutes later, bartender comes around, pulls my friend to the side and said that the girls told him he touched them. Note, this did not happen. Our entire friend group was still around, and I've confirmed from multiple people as well as kept an eye on them. He's about to get kicked out, so I asked the girl what the hell happened and she goes, well, you could have just talked to me and nothing would have happened. What the honest frick? Frick you and your gropey hands and frick your lies. TL. Dr. Girl tried to grab my junk. Claimed my friend grabbed at hers, just so I'd talk to her. Went out with a girl, and she drove us. She told me either I go inside her apartment and let her blow me, or I walk home. It was like 10 degrees F and I wasn't dressed for it, and I was about 10 miles from home. So I walked. Was at a friend's house for the weekend. His sister shows up, and we kind of clicked. After a night of heavy drinking, she asked me to sleep in her bed with her. I remember making out with her and then falling asleep. I woke up completely naked and asked her how that happened, and she said she felt that I was still hard after dozing off, so she just took it upon herself to have sex w me, even though I was asleep, or at least half asleep. I'm known as a very deep sleeper, especially when wasted. At that point I had never had sex with anyone without a condom. So you can imagine my excitement when I found out that there wasn't one used with this girl that I had met for the first time. And what's worse was I ended working with her briefly like a year or so after, and she decided to tell all the other girls I worked with that we had sex, which then basically made them want nothing to do with me. When I was in my early 20s, every now and again, an older heavyset lady would walk into the bar myself and friends would frequent. She'd wait for the younger guys to get wasted and try and stick her fingers in our mouths amongst other weird stuff. One day she was sitting at the bar crying hysterically that she lost her job. Story I heard was she sat on a guy's lap at work earlier in the week, and he told hours later that week security escorted her out. Good for him. But that didn't help me having old lady hands in my throat every twisted Tuesday. Was going out with some friends from work. Went out early and had to wait for them. Sat down at a table with one guy and two women and we started talking. After around 20-30 minutes the guy and one of the women excused themselves and left. So I was sitting there with this woman and she was sending very clear signals, like overtly sexual. Told her I had a girlfriend. She just started screaming that I had put something in her drink. I got thrown out, she got to stay. I had to talk with the police. Got banned from that place on top of it. They never bothered looking into if anyone had put anything in her drink either. It was just assumed that I was guilty. Wasted girl on a cruise ship grabbed my balls and squeezed so hard I fell to the floor in pain. As I got up, I asked why she did that. The answer was, you don't deserve to have kids. I passed out wasted during college and my friends moved me to a bed in another room so they could keep an eye on me. At some point a random girl who was drinking in the room made out with me while I was totally unconscious. I only found out later when people were laughing and telling me. I worked as a bouncer for 8 years, which led to being groped more times than I can count. This is the groping that stands out the most. A girl came into the bar and decided to drink, even though she was on medication that shouldn't be mixed with alcohol. Her friend asked me to help walk her to the car. I told the friend to go get the car and pull it up to the curb. While walking the girl out, she made repeated attempts to reach her hands down my pants. Halfway to the door her legs gave out, and I had to catch her. Now that I'm supporting her entire body weight, I don't have a free hand to stop her from reaching her hands down my pants. I had to just let her have her way with me. because my only other option was to drop her, which could have caused serious injury. Then, while carrying this woman that has free reign to jostle my twig and berries to her heart's content, she decides to bite down on my right nipple. Now if I drop her, not only is there a chance she could die, but also the chance that she will take my nipple with her. I eventually get her to the door, where another bouncer helps get her to a bench, where I can finally pry her teeth off my nipple, a skill that I'm proficient at, due to several prior opportunities to practice it, and extract her hands from my pants. Was at the beach, when an older man grabbed my ass. I told him to stop, and he grabbed my crotch. I pushed him away. I was too scared to call the police. I blamed myself for a while. I was at a gay pride parade supporting a friend who was scared to go, and I got groped like 5 times, and then I decided to leave. A girl at a party wanted to take me back to her room. I wasn't interested in her or sex at the moment, so I politely said I wasn't interested. She proceeded to call me a pig in front of the whole party because she assumed I would only have sex with skinny girls. She shouted at me for a couple of minutes and then left. My body, bitch. When I was 19, I was sexually harassed and groped by my 23-year-old manager when I was working at a lottery kiosk. I was bent over moving stuff around under the counter when she walked up behind me, told me she had a dream about us having sex the night before, and then grabbed my ass. I froze. She laughed and went back to her desk. I didn't know what to do or say, so I just went on with my day. Can't wear a kilt while out drinking without multiple women trying to lift it, look up it, stick their hands up it. Now I know why we have a Stygian dub. Multiple hen parties groping me for no reason. Sleeping on the sofa, wasted out time. I mind women I shared a house with. HMO. Tried getting my knob out and started playing with it while I was asleep. I get it from both sides. Even though I'm straight as a board, I seem to trip people's gaydars up. When I'm at festivals and concerts, I get harassed by gay guys all the time. I was out of my mind at a festival a month ago, full on raving and going nuts. Then this dude walks up and puts his hand on my ass and starts trying to talk to me. Like, I'm sorry dude, what? I'm in the middle of mosh pit. Get your hand off my ass. STFU. And freaking push me already, damn. I'm not about to have a conversation with you right now, even if I was gay. And also, women at bars love to touch my beard without permission. The last one was last weekend. Girl just walks up behind me and starts caressing both of my cheeks with her hands. I swung around and loudly yelled, "The frick are you doing?" "Oh, I just wanted to feel your beard." "Oh, okay. So let me just walk up behind you and grab your tits because your body is open season for me. That's how it works, right?" "Of course not, it's different." The bartender, "Oh come on man, she was just messing around." "No. She was putting her hands on my face without my permission and scared the frick out of me in the process. Had I done that to her, you'd be kicking me out without a second thought." I pushed the bartender to kick her out. There is no excuse for a stranger to walk up behind me and grab my face from both sides. Who the freaking frick does that? Scared the piss out of me. Had I done that to a chick, I'd have been dragged out by all the dudes sitting at the bar and eaten. But when a chick does it to me, everyone laughs. I made the bartender realize I was freaking serious and that physical harassment is not something to laugh at. So he kicked her out. The double standards on harassment are ridiculous. I've been yelled at for tapping a girl's shoulder to get her attention. Yet a girl can full on caress my face from behind and get encouraged. Was at a very crowded bar in downtown Minneapolis on St. Paddy's Day. Had a drink in my hand and was looking around for my brother-in-law. Some girl stuck her foot out and tripped me on purpose. Spilled my drink all over and fricked up my ankle. Not to mention everyone laughing at me because they thought I was clumsy/wasted. I looked up at the girl and she was smiling. She said, "Sorry about that. I wanted your attention." Offered to buy me another drink. People saw her do it, but no one said peen about it. I guess it's okay to assault men when you think they are cute. The whole experience was incredibly humiliating. I had a coworker who thought it was fun to grope other men's butts to be funny. He was straight, pretending to be gay. He only really did this with some of the workers from other countries that didn't really understand it, i.e., they thought it was just a fun game Americans played. Since I worked with him, I ended up being associated with him to where they all thought I was in on the game. Needless to say, I got my butt slapped and grabbed all summer by a bunch of foreigners who thought it was funny because they didn't understand and thought I enjoyed it. Was in a bar/club hybrid, dancing with friends. Note that this is a normal student club, not a gay club or anything. Guy comes up to me and dances on me. I try to push him away nicely, telling him I don't like it. He comes on even stronger, not even reacting to me trying to keep him at arm's length by shoving him back. Grabs my junk. At that point I punched him, and he finally fricked off. Around 11 years old, first couple of weeks at Toontree High School. Playing chess at lunchtime in a classroom with very few in there. Older girl, 15ish I guess, plays with me and starts feeling me up with her foot under the table, rubbing my peen with her foot etc. Went on for a little, and she's looking into my eyes like I'm supposed to be getting off awesome crap. I was 11 FFS. I was far too young and knew it. Nearly burst into tears immediately afterwards. Felt nasty and dirty and ashamed I guess. I've never told anyone about this before in my entire life. Didn't really impact me in a negative way, or at least not consciously. I'll have to think on that. I kinda lost myself there for a while, so who knows. Only even remembered it as my sons just started at the same school and I walked past the building where it happened. Feels odd to think about all these years later. Now I know what it was. Crap. Few other things like that happened to me over the years, but other than that incident I welcomed everything else. Lived a good life, lots of lovers, no issues in that area at all. Makes me feel sorry for that girl though. Hate to think what her home situation was like, if she was perving on quite obviously prepubescent boys, and I looked younger than I was too. I wonder what happened to her. I was playing in various bands during the height of the hair band popularity in Toronto. Women were constantly groping me, and no, I didn't like it, because although I was the only like this in my band, I'm a one-woman guy. I guess I always wanted the same respect from my girl, and would want her to shut down unwanted advances. I had one girl who kept pinching me in the crowd. When I finally caught her say what? Don't you like that? I told her next time why don't you try starting with hello. As a guy you kind of have to accept it, or you will be ridiculed by endless morons who think you should just take advantage of any opportunity. It was the part of playing live that I hated. If we were opening for another band I couldn't just hop off the stage and get a drink. I'd have to change out of our stage outfits right away, or it was a grope fest. Many women don't see a thing wrong with this behavior. When I was in my 20s my girlfriend took me to a club that unknown to me had male strippers once a month. The way the women were acting was ridiculous. Men would get thrown out of a strip club if they even began to exhibit that kind of behavior. There's a huge double standard there. Now guys acting like Weinstein are not okay in any sense of the word. But there are many women who need to get control too. Going to that strip club it was easy to see why some women end up banging the stripper at their bachelorette party. They only need a tiny bit of prompting from their friends and off they go off the deep end. Not the kind of girl I want to be with, that's for sure. When I worked at Walmart I was in the middle of losing weight, went from 330 pounds down to 230 or so, and suddenly I had a lot of older women hitting on me. Mainly it was just awkward comments. But I did have one woman who insisted on touching my arms or hands whenever she could, which was insanely uncomfortable. I had another woman talk creepily about taking me back to her place after I got off work. I've also had a guy grab my ass once, and another try to grab at my crotch, though he missed. I don't know how much this qualifies, but I've been heavily pressured into having sex when I didn't want to, like the wouldn't take no for an answer kind of girl who won't stop touching me. I've told this story before, so I'll keep it short. Drinking at a party at a friend's house, got talking to attractive girl who is friend of friend. Party died. We were both staying over. I tell her she can have the spare bedroom. I'll crash on the couch. Fell asleep and woke up about an hour later with her going down on me. Imagine the outcome if roles were reversed. I'd legit be in jail. I can't be too critical because we ended up having sex on the couch, but I feel my point stands. I went to the bathroom at a party. There was this girl I knew kinda well, but more just through mutual friends. Well, I could tell she kind of had a thing for me. But I go into the bathroom. She is in the tub, no water, wasted as frick, and pawing at my pants. She's telling me to frick her a bunch. Obviously pretty wasted. I was being polite about it, but she tried pulling the leg of my pants down and finally just called me a pussy, etc. Sorta hurt my feelings. Not sure if this quite counts, though. But yeah, number 3. Aside from the normal grabbing at bars, I crashed on a friend's couch once and woke up to his flatmate trying to put her hand down my pants. I turned over and pretended to still be asleep. She knew I was awake and left me alone after about 5 minutes of sucking my finger and rubbing my chest. It was uncomfortable but not upsetting. I was working as a busboy at a restaurant and a wasted old lady suddenly grabbed my junk in a death grip for what felt like an eternity. Gentlemen, after reading this thread, I want you to know that I'm very sorry these things happened to you. You did not deserve them. They were all wrong and should never have happened. None of them were your fault. I'm on your side and I believe you. I'm so truly very sorry. You deserved better from women and men. This was about 18 years ago. I was on a business trip with a woman who I was not at all attracted to, physically or personality wise. I was 24, she was probably 29, 31. She invited me to go get dinner after work. I agreed. She seemed normal enough to just chit chat with. She said to stop by her hotel room when I was ready. When I got there, she invited me into her room. Before we headed out, she had a bottle wine open and asked if I wanted a glass. I didn't think there was much harm in it, so sure, why not? We walked to a Red Robin a few blocks away for dinner. I had 2 drinks with my burger while we just made small talk. After dinner we decided to go see a movie. Nothing really exceptional. I can't even remember what it was. I also don't remember walking back to the hotel. What I do remember is gaining consciousness with her on top of me, then nothing else, until I woke up in the morning naked in her bed. I got dressed and hightailed it back to my room and took the longest shower of my life. I assume I was roofied, since I know I only had 3 drinks, which, even though I've been blackout wasted in the past, it took a lot more than 3 drinks over 4 hours to get that way. I've only ever told my wife about it and that's about it besides this. Not the worst by any means, but it still bothers me. I was working security for a company with multiple buildings. A lady from ours came to the building I was guarding wanting codes to access certain doors. I logged in her time of arrival and explained I couldn't give her any door codes, but since she was in ours, if she just asked the manager they would probably give her the codes, no problem. I escorted her to the area she wanted access to and left her with the manager. About 2 hours after she left said building, my boss called me saying that she was going through the office of the main building saying she had flashed cleavage at me, and I gave her the codes. Boss, male, if it matters, was really cool about it and asked if I wanted to pursue any sort of sexual harassment claims. But apparently if she did flash her cleavage, she did it while I was logging her time of arrival, as I never saw anything and I wasn't going to lie about it. And working for a contract company, I wasn't confident if my job would be in good standing if opposing a client's our staff, so I let it drop. Fortunately nothing else was ever said about it. It was just a stupid lie that I can't guess why she wanted to tell in the first place. But it really had me on edge for a few days. Not only did that have the potential to damage my livelihood, but my personal reputation too. I'm a devout Christian and very active in my church. I was really concerned what rumors like that could do for my standing in the church. Even if untrue, the whole experience taught me just how easy it is to be sexually victimized in some way and how difficult it can be to feel safe speaking about it. I had a sleepover with 2 female friends. I woke up with my junk out and one friend riding me. Out of instinct I punched her. Never thought I was sexually assaulted until years later. I just thought crap like that happened to guys. Shrugs. I now realize I had this kind of experience when I was younger with a girl from high school. She wanted to have sex with me and was the fiancée of a friend of mine at the time. I told her I didn't want anything like that with her, and she forcibly groped me multiple times when we were alone and forcibly kissed me one time as well. I was in college and known as a heavy partier. One night we were throwing a party at my fraternity house and my cousin came to visit from her college across town, and she brought a few friends. Of the 4 or so friends, one was cute and the other 3 weren't my type. But I was friendly and tried to make sure they all had a good time. Part of this included briefly coming up to my room and drinking the good stuff, a bottle of Jack or something versus Natty Light in the party area, so the girls knew where my room was and where I slept. Fast forward to the end of the night. My cousin and her friends all seemed to have secured sleeping arrangements in the house. 1 or 2 had shacked up with a frat brother. The others were occupying futons in the rooms of other guys I trusted, so my duty of sapphire keeping was fulfilled. I finished off the night with a few more drinks and retired to my lofted bed pretty damn wasted. I was kind of drifting in and out of sleep and heard the door open. I didn't know who it was, so I assumed somebody needed to crash on the couch or my roommate had left or something and was coming back in. Bear in mind, I'm in that in-between dream state, so not thinking too clearly between that and the alcohol. I think I noticed the ladder up to my bed moving and not really paying attention. It could be someone hid it while flopping on the couch below or whatever, and the next thing I know there's a heavy-set woman, one of my cousin's friends who I was not into at all, in my bed nibbling on my neck and generally pushing the buttons you push if you're trying to get a guy turned on. I was in no condition to deal, so I think I kept turning away or something. But honestly this part is a blur. A few moments later I came to and realized what was going on as she's on top of me and riding me for all she's worth. If she had been gentler, would I have even woken up? I started to feebly, I was basically asleep and wasted, push her off or stop her or whatever, and after a few moments of ineffective struggling she stops and says, "You're not really into this, are you?" All I had the energy or alertness to do was shake my head and mumble a no. So she, showing visible frustration, got off of me and climbed down. I just rolled over and tried to process whether what I thought had just happened had actually just happened, and eventually I passed out again. I thought for a while that maybe I was too friendly or maybe I had done something to suggest I wanted that to happen. But I know I didn't. I never told anyone or discussed it for years. I didn't really feel like reporting it to anyone would amount to anything, and honestly, I don't know what I was doing or how I was reacting. Before I came to it, I just kind of pushed it down and ignored it. My concerns that maybe I just led her on or that I was somehow in the wrong were eliminated when I showed back up to my room one day after class to a thing of cookies and an apology note a couple days later. Apparently she felt bad enough to make some kind of gesture. As I think about it now, that night does kind of correlate with the end of my hooking up days, and I have needed a certain level of trust with a potential partner before I wanted sex. Since around that time, when I was not like that before. Was it maturity or some kind of response to that night? I don't know. I literally just thought about it as I was writing this. I'm not sure if this counts because I was young, but it's always bothered me, so I'm going to share. I remember being around 2 or 3 years old when this happened. My parents had a next door neighbor babysit me often. She was a teenager. I can remember one time she was in the bathroom and she called me into the bathroom. She was sat on the toilet, legs spread. I tried looking away cause I thought it was gross, but she grabbed my arm and forced me to look at her vag. Then she slapped me. I ran away, but then she yelled at me to come back. I did, and she told me to look again. I didn't want to, but she told me she would slap me again if I didn't look. Not wanting to get hit again, I looked. Obviously she slapped me anyway. I don't remember much after that. She eventually got fired cause my mom caught her stealing Macup. I told my parents she would hit me, but I never told them the context above. I've never told anyone before this really. I'm 30 years old and I'm pretty sure it still affects me. I don't like looking at women's genitals and frankly feel embarrassed to look at any women who are disrobed. I've honestly never had a girlfriend before, and the idea of intimacy with a woman just doesn't sit right with me. I'm sure I want a family someday, but I don't have any drive to pursue it. And when I think to myself why I feel this way, my thoughts inevitably drift back to that day in the bathroom. So that's my story. Not sure it's a number Me Too story though. A chaperone on a school trip is usually supposed to ensure that students don't get it on with one another. On some occasions, though, chaperones will try to get it on with students. My high school choir had been selected to perform in a mass ensemble performance of the Verdi Requiem, which was to take place in Rome, Italy. We would be singing in the Basilica of St. Paul, and a rumor had gone around that the Pope himself would be a member of the audience. As it happened, the only dignitary who put in an appearance that we knew of anyway turned out to be the president of the tour service that we used. But by the time that the disappointing piece of gossip made its way around, the man in question had somehow become the king of Italy. Anyway, the main focus of the trip wasn't just the performance itself, but rather the tour of country in general. We made our way from Rome to Venice, and then on to Florence, and with each passing day, I noticed that one of the parent volunteers was getting friendlier and friendlier towards me. It had started off innocently enough, with the woman in question suggesting that her daughter, who was also on the trip, and I would make a good couple. That pretense soon went out the window as the lady began describing the crushing loneliness that she experienced while her husband was away on business, and the growing desire that she had for a young man to keep her company. I really should have picked up on the fact that she was trying to seduce me. Throughout the entirety of this creepy attempt at courtship, I kept mistaking the woman's advances for awkward attempts at friendliness. Even when she described how she was going to spend her evening, which allegedly included an unlocked door and a liberating amount of nudity, I just shook my head and wrote it off as a case of an adult being weird. It wasn't until the very last night of our trip that I realized what had actually been going on, and it took a patently absurd set of circumstances to make me to take notice. At the behest of two young women, one of whom I had been secretly lusting after for the majority of the time that I'd known her, I had wound up donning a dress, an excessive amount of makeup, and a pair of ill-fitting high-heeled shoes. Thus clad as the least passable woman in the country, I took to parading around the streets of Florence whilst crooning in a deep baritone. I don't recall exactly why it was supposed to be so amusing, but the performance prompted quite a bit of laughter from my fellow choir members, and even random passers-by. I was all set to offer an encore, when I was suddenly dragged into an alley by a set of surprisingly strong hands. "Maximum, I have to tell you something," a woman's voice said. I turned to see the same lady who had been hounding me throughout the trip standing in the darkness with a wild look in her eyes. I replied. "Okay." The woman reached forward and put her hands around me. "No matter what you wear, no matter how you look, it won't change my feelings for you. Okay?" I said again. "I don't think anyone knows we're here," the woman whispered, pressing herself closer to me. So, there I was, a 14-year-old kid looking down at a nearly androgynous spheroid of a woman as she stared longingly up into my eyes. I'd heard stories about this sort of thing, but never thought that it would happen to me, and certainly not while I was dressed like the cheapest hooker on that side of the Mediterranean. All of the suggestive talk, the not so subtle insinuations, and the plainly graphic invitations suddenly registered for what they were in my mind, and I found myself wondering if I'd somehow mistakenly offered the impression that I was interested. In the end, I wound up mumbling something apologetic, breaking away from the woman, and then sprinting back to my hotel room. It wasn't an easy feat in high heels, but the alternative was arguably worse. TL. Doctor, a chaperone on a school trip tried to seduce me while I was dressed in drag.